Well, hello, friends. Amy here. This is going to do a little recap of last week's shows as I get ready for this week's shows. Not exactly sure where this should go in my publishing rotation, if I'm absolutely honest. Anyway, last week was Canada Day and July 4th, and a totally overwhelming news information cycle, if I'm going to be completely honest. Um, July 4th is a crazy kind of weather thing here where I live in the tropics. Like summer overall, when you live as far south as I am, is not as awesome as it is in other places. So I actually chose an indoor celebration for my July 4th rather than going out and battling the mosquitoes and sitting on soggy ground, planning escape trips to places where it's not quite as hot and humid, if you want to know the truth. Anyway, let's talk about what was on the show last week because there was some really good stuff. I'm going to go in reverse just because that's the way the pile is in front of me. Okay. So on Saturday, I shared a story of a really, really wonderful person named Megan Ham. She's a licensed professional counselor who put her own self in the role of being a foster parent. And then she went through the realization that many, many people do in a variety of professions that knowing about something is not always the exact same as doing it for yourself. And this is a really, really great story. She has turned around and written a book that is very powerful to help other people who are going through that. Not everybody steps into the role of foster parent, but the things that Megan shares are, I think, really, really interesting to hear. And if you've ever been in any sort of caregiving role and been on the other side of the table from somebody who's giving you advice and you think, I don't know if that actually is the way it works, you will enjoy this story. I know I have been there. That I sometimes call that the hill I might die on, that I prefer to get advice from people who they can be experts. I have a lot of respect for experts and academics, 100%, but I think that we give and get different advice when we've actually walked the walk. That's the hill I might die on. Before that, I interviewed a woman named Sarah Racasano, which honestly is one of the most fun names to say. Racasano, Racasano. It could be like in a song, like Shaka Khan, Racasano. Anyway, not the point. She dreamt of working on Wall Street, and she made it happen. And she worked on Wall Street for a really long time. Turned out that parts of it were not exactly as amazing as she thought, and she blew up her entire life, or had it blown up for her. Tune in to find out exactly what happened and rebuilt it in a totally different way, which is where she is today. Yay! One of everybody's favorite types of stories, career change. So, there's a July 4th episode, which because July 4th fell on a Friday. And that's actually me. You can tune in and listen to me. I share things, nice things that people say about the show. Why is it me on July 4th instead of a guest? I didn't think that that felt fair. And it was a little bit of an experiment on my part because the show volume, there's like some momentum kicking into the release of the show episodes, people are beginning to ask, like, Amy, why in the world are you releasing so many episodes? It's really driven by how many people pitch themselves to be guests, to be honest. I don't like to get too far away from the release date because people talk about things that are actually happening in their lives and what's going on. And so if a bunch of people apply, which has been the situation, that turns into a bunch of episodes. And then I noticed that the closer they are together, the more the momentum and the growth is in terms of downloads and discovery. So I didn't want to interrupt it. So I put myself in there on July 4th. We're having the reverse of that experiment. I'm skipping a day this week to see what happens. Honestly, that's a scheduling error on my part, if I'm totally honest. All right. So also this week, Carly Fouth. All right. So Carly is a person who has a lifelong interest and passion for exercise and fitness. I too would say that I have a lifelong interest in passion and fitness. Since we recorded this episode, though, I've been connected with Carly on social media, and she's much more passionate about it than I am at this phase in our life. She recently went on vacation in Norway, and I don't know if it was a retreat where she was leading these people, but she was doing workouts with people on ferries. And if these were, I don't know if these were people who were with her on the trip or if they were strangers that she motivated to do this. It's really very interesting, but she really loves it. The story that Carly shares with us is that Carly got a health diagnosis. She got a cancer diagnosis and she was told to rest. And she didn't want to rest. She wanted to stay moving. And so she shares with us the research she did with her doctors and medical and all kind of things and what she was able to do to incorporate movement and exercise into her own life, her own story. It is her opinion that may be actually showing to be backed up by some research that came out. I saw it. I don't know if it's the algorithm feeding it to me because they know I talked to Carly or because it's new. There may be some support for this idea that if you can keep moving during chemotherapy for the benefit of it. So she shares all of that. She's a smart person. She's also very captivating, entertaining. I think you'll enjoy it. Watch it on YouTube. Watch it, listen to it on your podcast player, on and on and on. All right, so then the earliest episode that I had is an interview from Michelle Manley, is her name. And this is an interesting thing because Michelle Manley tells a story of really, really living in a part of a what we would call high control community, and which some people would call, there's lots of them. Listen to it and hear how she describes because I don't want to get it wrong from memory, but at once upon a time in her life, somebody tried to run her over with a van. Like, so she was in a really, really icky personal situation. She tells how she got out of it, how she rebuilt her life, and where she is today. It's on the spectrum of stories that I share on the show. It's on the dramatic side, but she's far enough out of it to be able to talk about it in a very healthy and productive way. Those are the episodes that we had last week on the show. And if you are a subscriber to Imperfect Adulting on the email community, you do get these fed directly into your email box once a week, along with the any links for special offers that come with the guests. And so that means you don't have to chase it down and find it. I only send that message once a week, so I'm not bombarding you with messages. But if you want to have them fed to you in a way that you don't have to look them up and be the efforter on this relationship, that's the easiest way to do it. So you just sign up at imperfectadulting.com. And there are new episodes out this week. There are four because I made a mistake on the schedule where there would have been five. I don't, this happens. I am right at the point of this process. Anybody who cares, which is probably nobody, I'm right at the point of this process where I'm adding people to take part of the production work off of my personal to-do list, and could not come at a better time because there are little tiny fissures beginning to show in my process. They're me. I'm the fissures. It's me. I'm the problem. All right, Amy, out. Enjoy the show.